Welcome back. In today's video I'm going to make a couple of jack screws and I'm going to use this cast aluminium stock. Now this stock is around 70 millimeters in diameter, and I need to turn it down to around 53 to 52 and a half millimeters. I'm leaving myself a half millimeter tolerance there. This is the OD is not very critical, but after cutting that OD, I must cut in a recess of 48 millimeter, around 22 millimeters deep. Now it's going to fit into a tube that is 48 millimeters, or it's not, yeah, tube, the pipe. Sorry, if you're working with a ID, it's a pipe. If you're working with an OD, it's a tube. So it needs to be 48 millimeters, and that needs to be precise. Now on this side here, you'll see that there's a little bit of shrinkage. It sunk in the casting process. And you can see it's wobbling quite a bit. Now in order to fix this, I'm going to come in with my end mill, 4 flute 16 millimeter, and just clean it up just until I get at the flat spot. Center drill it because there's a little bit of clearance for my live center to go in there. So I can't take out too much or else the live center won't fit. Alright, hope you enjoy this build. It looks simple, but there's a lot of processes involved here. I'm going to do a lot of single point threading, internal and external. So yeah, that's something different. Just locking the quill slightly so that I don't have any movement here. Yeah, that's good enough. Came out nice and smooth. As you can see here, there's a little mark here. That's where my feet was to fasten the stool. If you're wondering, I'm using a WNMG 080404 insert, and when I was doing roughing passes, the finish wasn't very great. It was digging in, and it was I was struggling with the chip buildup on the tip. Even with the lubrication, it was still welding to the tip. And so I've decided to go to flat coolant, as the stock was also getting hot, and it's now lukewarm instead of hot, and it seemed to have left a better finish than with a cutting wheel. My last cut was a 0.4 millimeter depth of cut, so that's 0.08 on the diameter, and I think the finish is very, very good. Okay, I've run the bump tool up against the part here in order to get it nice and centered. The accuracy is not 200% critical because it's going to be chopped off in shorter pieces. So if there's any discrepancies, it's not going to matter too much. This is not a high precision part. Okay, I've given it a slight bevel on the belt sander on the one end so that it doesn't interfere with my chuck jaws. Forgot to change my tool holders. What I've done is I've touched off the specific tool against the angle block on the back, so that I measure off 22 millimeters offset, and then face it off to length. Now if you change the tool, you will end up having a different dimension, as the tools are not on the same offset. Okay, what I do now is I move it right up to the back of the chuck, because when I'm drilling, I'm gonna drill with a 24 millimeter drill bit, and it's gonna push this buck back, and it's gonna mess up the outer surface finish. Not that I'm too concerned, because there's some meat that needs to be removed from the side here. Okay, vibrated a bit in the beginning, but the harder you push it, the quicker it gets out of that chatter. Okay, almost made a blunder. If I've taken one more cut, then I would have cut into my chuck here. So I'm just going to use a piece of high-speed steel, because high-speed steel, if you don't have parallels, are a good source of getting a piece of steel that's 100% ground flat. Because when in the factories, they grind these things to precise dimensions. Just need to get this one out. Okay, now I can continue. Okay, I'm ready to do threading. Now you would think after all these years that I would be immune to mistakes, but a mistake has been made. Now I've turned all the IDs according to my vernier to 37.5 millimeters. Very proud on how close I got it, each and every one of them. Only to find out afterwards that the vernier wasn't zeroed when you close the jaws. And it turned out that the actual ID is 39 millimeters instead of 37.5. So now I'm going to go for the next size metric thread, which is a 42 by 3 instead of the 40 by 2.5, which I plan to cut. So yeah, mistakes do happen. Okay, the 4 collars are done. If you can look at this thread here, you can see it doesn't look very good, but it's still usable. Now, the last two that I've made, I get the camera to focus, you can see that's a decent thread. Now, you would think that my depth of cuts had something to do with it, and the feed rate and all those things, and the angle that I was cutting wasn't really the issue. The issue that I had was that my TDI was slipping teeth, and I didn't notice that. Now with vibration and stuff in the machine, when I was milling and all, it somehow moved. Now the body of it is plastic, so I didn't check it, so that's a fault on my part. And because of it slipping one teeth, it would cause the carriage to advance a little bit every time, and then it cuts in an area where it's not supposed to be cutting, up to the point where it completely cut the thread away. Yeah, it's always a good practice to check your whole machine before you start the operation like this. So yeah, I'm gonna stop this video here. I don't want to make it too long-winded. The next video I'll do that jack screw. Until next time, cheers.